On the election, Americans for Prosperity and I have teamed up. They are sponsoring regular segments on what the economics of the choice ahead of Americans mean. Akash Chougule is their vice president in D.C. Inside the Beltway, he's been joining me all week. Akash, when last we spoke, I didn't think the Democrat lurch to the left could get worse, but it did. What did you? I know why they picked Tim Walz. They couldn't pick Josh Shapiro because of his Israel stance. But how left wing is this ticket, and what's it mean to you?
Hugh, this is the most progressive ticket on a mainstream party in the history of our country. Harris and Walz are both as far as you can be to the left on tax issues, spending issues, labor issues, energy issues, you name it. And the thing is, it's not just their rhetoric, it's bills that Harris has led and co-sponsored, and of course, the platform on which she ran for president. With Governor Walz, it's his activity when he was a member of the House of Representatives. It's bills that he has passed into law as governor of Minnesota and other things that he has advocated for. And so make no mistake, while this is a ticket that is far, far to the left of the mainstream of this country, as we have discussed, Hugh, they can still win, which what that does is it puts a lot more importance down the ballot on expanding conservative majorities in the House, flipping the Senate to conservative control, and doing so with candidates like we have across the country who are running on free markets and limited government. Folks should be very proud of the slate of Republican candidates running for Congress in both chambers. I'd understand the importance of getting those folks elected all across the country.
Akash, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was in the set for NBC on the night of 2016 election night when no one thought Donald Trump could win, and he won. So I don't think Kamala Harris can win, but I didn't think Donald Trump could win either. Americans are funny when it comes to their ballots. They could win. I think it's important to tell people what's ahead. What would you imagine a Harris-Walz economy to look like?
I think it would be worse than what we've seen under Bidenomics, right? So, for example, should they take full control in November, have the White House, the House, and the Senate, you will see massive, debilitating tax increases, Hugh. And here's the rub. This is what we talked about last week. They don't even need to pass a law for taxes to go up. The individual portion of the 2017 tax cuts expires at the end of 2025. All they need to do is do nothing, and Americans face a massive tax increase. On top of that, if they can, they will raise the corporate tax rate. They will raise the top individual income tax rate. They will likely try to raise taxes on capital gains and other business activity. And what's called unrealized gains, sort of a wealth tax, is something they'll push for. Classic Elizabeth Warren idea. They will expand the welfare state. You'll see trillions more spent on quote unquote green energy while we go and beg Venezuela and Iran to produce more natural gas. And so all these things that we've seen under Bidenomics that created this inflation crisis, you will see that much and more on steroids if Harris-Walz are elected.
Akash, you're a very experienced observer of national politics. How surprised were you? I had J.D. Vance on in the second hour yesterday. He said, they're going to pick Josh Shapiro. The only reason they wouldn't is anti-Semitism, anti-Israel position. And literally a half hour later, they announced Tim Walz. What happened there?
I think part of it is what you alluded to, Hugh. But again, I think the appeal that they see in Governor Walz is not something I would underestimate if I were conservatives. His appeal, frankly, Hugh, it may not be with that so-called white working class base that J.D. Vance, or Republicans think J.D. Vance appeals to across the Rust Belt. But Tim Walz clearly has some appeal with kind of suburban, moderate types. Minnesota has a lot of those. As you know, Hugh, Minnesota is like a relatively prosperous state, some very wealthy suburbs, where Tim Walz did quite well to get elected. I think the Democrats see that that is their path to win. It's to win in these suburbs, win those voters that have flipped to the Democrats in recent years, keep them, expand them, like President Biden did. I think it's more important than ever, though, for Republicans to draw that contrast. And to give some credit to Senator Vance, I don't know if you saw this, Hugh. He did yesterday with Larry Kudlow on Fox Business. He endorsed the Trump tax cuts. He endorsed the corporate tax cut. He understood that it created jobs, it created wage growth, it created this enormous economic boon. I think for him to be able to go and explain that in the Rust Belt is so vital, because some people, frankly, are questioning whether Republicans even believe that stuff. And I think if J.D. Vance can advocate that the tax cuts and reg reforms made a difference for them, that will be very, very helpful, drawing a contrast to Tim Walz's big government record.
You know, I'm going to the Steel Valley tonight, Akash. I'm leaving right after the program to head to Ohio. And indeed, the repeal of those tax cuts would be devastating to the center of the country. Absolutely a crushing blow, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz would allow that to happen. Akash Chougule, thank you for joining me. AmericansForProsperity.org. Go and get involved at the local level. AmericansForProsperity.org is nonpartisan. It works for free markets and free minds. And you go find the Freedom Front at AmericansForProsperity.org.